briefly share your myositis diagnosis story?
In 2011, I had some issues with my skin that I thought was eczema. I had multiple doctors telling me it was eczema, but the biggest concern I had is that I had itching inside of my ears. And when I say itching, I mean to the point where nothing could satisfy it. I would take bobby pins and shove them down in my ears. And no, please don't do that. But that was one of the biggest things that told me that something was really, really wrong. A couple of years later, I started getting extremely red on my face and having a butterfly effect on my face. So it looked like my nose had like the body of a butterfly, and then the outside of it was like the wings of a butterfly. And I couldn't be out in the sun because anytime I was out in the sun, it would hurt so badly. And eventually it had went to my chest and my arms, and I really couldn't figure out what was going on. I then, a couple of years later, linked it back to I had gotten a tattoo. And when I had gotten the tattoo, it didn't heal properly. And it was super scaly and super painful and super itchy. I had done some family research and found out that lupus runs in my family. So I had gone to my family doctor and said, "Hey, lupus runs in my family. Can we please see if I have lupus?" They continued to tell me everything was okay. I just had eczema. It's no big deal. Then in 2016, I got pregnant with my second daughter. And when I got pregnant with her, most of my symptoms actually subsided. I didn't have a whole lot of issues. My skin was a little red, but nothing like what it was before that. But after I had her, about a month after I had her, I was in a flare so badly that it was hard to get up and walk. I couldn't really do anything. I couldn't even have clothes touching my skin. At that point, I had had enough. I had a very rough pregnancy with her and could not figure out why. And when I went to my gynecologist, she had explained to me that I had endometriosis extremely bad, and it was bad enough to the point where they needed to give me a hysterectomy. This hysterectomy threw me into a horrible flare, but it also threw me into menopause right away. Again, I still wasn't getting anyone to listen to me other than saying, "Oh, you have lupus, you have lupus," or sorry, "Oh, you have um, eczema, you have eczema." And I was very uncomfortable with this. So I finally went back to my family doctor and I explained to them something is really wrong. I don't know what it is. I'm hurting so badly. It hurts to wear clothes. I don't want to be touched. I don't know what's going on, but something is not right. And when he sat there and listened to me, he just kind of got this look on his face like, "Okay, I will do some testing, but I need to do some blood work and I need to get a skin biopsy." So we got a skin biopsy off of my chest where it was the worst. And when he got that back, I had dermatomyositis. And this doctor looked at me and said, "I have no idea what this is. I know you need to be sent to rheumatology, but I really don't understand this." So I was sent to rheumatology. When I got there, this was in 2019. Because it took me from 2016 to 2019 to finally get them to realize something's really wrong. In 2019, I had been diagnosed with dermatomyositis, and we started a regimen of methotrexate, and I was very uncomfortable with it. I actually fought it for about 6 months because I was still breastfeeding my baby, and I said, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. And she ended up telling me, you're gonna have to take this because if you don't, you may not be here in 5 years. So I broke down and I took it. I had been on multiple types of treatments by 2021, and I was so fed up with not being able to get any answers or any relief. And I found the Myositis Association. And when I found the Myositis Association, I saw that they were connected to Johns Hopkins that has a myositis center. So I contacted them and it took me about 3 years, but I did finally get into them. And in 2022, I went to Johns Hopkins after having a massive flare. And when I got there, they had done some testing and had let me know that my dermatomyositis was so hard to treat because it was actually cancer associated dermatomyositis. And at that point, we got me on IVIG and we started that regimen, and that has been the thing that's helped me the most.
Wow, that's a really long time.
It is an extremely long time. I didn't realize that it had been, well, now it's been almost 10 years um, with an actual diagnosis. And I was so unable to get anyone to understand that there was something seriously wrong because at that time, autoimmune diseases and connective tissue diseases were not highly diagnosed. They were very uncommon to diagnose. And now on my journey, I have wanted to help others get a diagnosis a lot sooner because had I gotten treatment a lot sooner, I may not have gotten as bad as I did.
How do you explain myositis to someone who's never heard of it?
I explain myositis to someone who's never heard of it like when you get the flu and you're down for multiple days and you haven't eaten for a few days and your body's just extremely tired, that's what it feels like in a nutshell. But my muscles some days hurt really, really bad, and other days they're completely fine, and I can get up and I can wash the dishes. I always go back to the spoon theory because that has been a huge way to explain to people who have no idea what it's like to have a autoimmune disease. I really like explaining it as having a hard time being able to keep up with your muscles if you've ran 10 miles or if you've ran a marathon. You're extremely exhausted afterward. And in my myositis journey, my myositis has been more like having a really bad flare up like lupus, and you can see it on the skin, but you can't necessarily see it as a person for me because it's an invisible illness. So you don't always know that something's going on unless someone's in a flare up and you can physically see it.
Are there any daily routines or practices that help you manage symptoms?
I actually paint. I found recently that I like to be a very busy person and I love to garden, and it's fulfilling to me, but it makes me exhausted. So on days that I need to rest or relax, painting really helps. I also have caregivers that help me throughout the day because unfortunately I am young, but I can't do everything myself. There are days that I can't get up and get a shower by myself. So on those days, I have run out of spoons, so someone else will help me with that. I've noticed that having a electric toothbrush is very helpful. Having a water flosser helps tremendously. I have different little, they're foam, but they go on the end of a pencil or on the end of your fork or spoon on days where I can't grip. I will use those to help. I think that helping yourself by not overexerting yourself helps in a daily routine, period. Because, like I said, brushing your teeth with a manual toothbrush, it actually uses a lot of muscles that you don't realize that you have. And when you can't use those anymore, that electric toothbrush helps take care of a lot of those things. Dishes wise, a dishwasher, that sounds silly, but a dishwasher has really helped. And keeping my skin extremely moisturized also helps because it's not only helping the skin part of it, but it is helping by rubbing some of those muscles that you wouldn't normally think to do. So that also helps me as well.
What resources or tools have made the biggest difference in your care or your understanding of myositis?
The biggest resources that I have had would be the Myositis Association. They always have new things coming up. They always have support groups. Those are huge for people, especially if you're first diagnosed. I didn't have a whole lot of resources in the beginning, but I'm actually looking to give more resources. That is a goal of mine, is to again be an advocate. That way other people have the resources that they need. The Autoimmune Association has been a large portion of resources as well. And you can a lot of times get in contact with these associations. And when you need help with something, say you need help finding a doctor, or say you need help finding therapy, they a lot of times can help that. And calling insurance is such a pain for most people. But if you call your insurance, a lot of times they can give you resources on physical therapies that can help. And at first I thought it was really silly because I always thought, oh, physical therapy, I'm never going to want to do that. I'm young. Why would I want to do that? And then once I finally got into physical therapy and started helping with the different muscles, it helped different tremors that I had. And the way I found that was I had called my insurance and said, hey, I'm having some issues. I need some help. Um, the spoon theory, that is a huge resource. I will explain that all day, every day for someone who doesn't understand energy levels. It's extremely helpful. And it was extremely helpful for my kids too, because you don't just need resources for yourself, you need resources for the people around you, because sometimes they need support groups. They're there through your journey with you, helping you and trying to make things easier on you. But we don't stop to think about their mental health and how it impacts them as well, especially young children and spouses. They're there for your entire journey. And one day you may be getting an infusion and it may not go correctly. And you have kids that are very worried about you. So you have to find resources for them as well. And support groups, therapies, those have been really, really big resources. Another really helpful thing that I have found is liquid IV. It is a electrolyte powder, and it is very helpful for me on days where I am really exhausted. And most of the time I've just exhausted myself to the point where I've dehydrated myself. But that has been a huge thing that's been very helpful.
What role has TMA's community or peer support, such as the webinars and support groups, what role have those things played in your myositis journey?
I've been able to look back on a lot of the resources that they've given. Sometimes it's nice to just be able to help yourself by talking to someone else who has the same thing that you have or has a similar journey as you, because we can have the exact same diagnosis and never go through the exact same journey. but there are a lot of similarities. And being able to have a support group to talk to others and understand you're not alone in this. Because for so long, I felt so alone because I was so young and never had a friend or a a peer that was in the same boat that I was. And listening to others give their journey and just know, oh my gosh, I've been through that. Or, okay, that may be something that I go through later on. And you're not grieving by yourself, you're grieving with others who are helping you. And I say grieving, I don't use that word lightly because the whole journey with myositis is a grief journey. You can be happy one minute and you can be upset the next. But having someone there that understands how you feel has been amazing support. Also, with the others trying to get bills passed so that we don't have to worry so much about insurance or healthcare or being able to be given disability rather than having to wait all of these years and being able to have that community around you is so important.
What advice would you give someone who is newly diagnosed?
The advice I would give someone who would be newly diagnosed is make sure you find someone who has resources that can help you. You are not alone in this journey. You will not ever be alone in this journey. You have people that advocate and that can give you the resources that you need to succeed, even though this journey may feel extremely rough and very hard on some days. Other days, it's very rewarding. Don't ever take it as, why did this happen to me? Because your story is very important and it can help others. I know in the very beginning, my journey was very, very hard. And I've been able to share certain experiences, certain resources. I've been able to write newsletters for kids, for parents also, to explain chronic illness to kids. There's always someone out there who has knowledge that can help you. So you are never alone in this journey. And if you don't like a doctor, you can always fire them.
And what advice would you give someone who is a new care partner for someone who's been diagnosed?
A new care partner really needs to understand that we want to keep our independence. We want to do as much for ourselves as possible. It is very hard to give up that independence, but we do need the help. So on days that people are struggling to get the dishes in the dishwasher, don't reprimand them for that. You can always put a towel over the sink if you don't like looking at the dishes. But if they ask for your help, they've probably already exhausted every option of trying to do it themselves. Mentally, it's not always rainbows and butterflies. Some days you're extremely happy, some days you're extremely sad. But grieving is a part of the process. And not only does the person with myositis have the grieving, but you will also grieve as well. Don't stay in denial that they are going to get better or they're not going to get better, because that hurts us in the end. Try your best to give the independence that's necessary, but also try your best to seek out other people that are care partners as well. Because just like us, you're going to go through days where you're extremely happy and extremely helpful. And then there's going to be days where you're upset about not being able to do something, or for the person you're caring for, they were great yesterday. Why are they not great today? There are other people that are going through that too. So therapy is always a good option. Support systems are a wonderful option, but try and find groups that are care partners as well.
What message would you share with others in the myositis community who may be struggling right now?
The message that I would share with others in the myositis community that could be struggling right now would be, it's a bad day, not a bad life. And I say that because there are a lot of bad days, but it's not a bad life. It's what you make of it. And if you're positive about how the day is going to start, a lot of times your day will be positive. I started a community called the Spoonie Ninja Community because that was something that I could put my energy into to help others, especially when they're having a hard day. I always leave my door open for anyone who needs to talk or needs to get it out or needs to ask questions about, hey, I'm not sure how to handle this today. I'm really struggling. Could you help me with this? I may not always have the answers, but I put a lot of energy into trying to help others because I found that with my diagnosis being really hard for me and hard to take, I had to put my energy elsewhere. And that may be something that you need to do too.
Is there anything else that you would like to share for Myositis Awareness Month?
I think that it is very important for everyone to have a supportive community. Myositis is very hard and it's not very well understood at this point. If we could come together for Myositis Awareness Month and we could get others to understand this is not something that's curable currently, but we could really work together to make it a lot easier to get healthcare or to get resources that we need, whether that be a therapy that's at home or infusions at home, or it be something as simple as having a water purifying system because sometimes our immunity can't handle what's in tap water or in the bottled water. If we could all work together to try and get these things approved, I think that we could have a lot better outcome for the people who have myositis or any other autoimmune disease for that matter.